This is the Washington Times front page for Tuesday, May 12th, 2026. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. The ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran hung by a thread after President Trump panned Tehran's latest proposal and met with military leaders to plot his next move. Von Concain and Tom Howell report the president's dismissal of Iran's peace offer raised the specter of renewed fighting in the war, which began with joint strikes by the U.S. and Israel on February 28th. He said there is still the opportunity for diplomacy, but complained that Iran's leadership keeps changing its mind. U.S. negotiators have remained mostly consistent in their demands. Iran cannot obtain a nuclear weapon, it must eliminate its uranium enrichment program, and cut its support for regional proxy terrorist groups. Iran's reply reportedly included demands to end all attacks against it, lift the blockade of Iranian ports, and unfreeze many of Iran's assets that have been restricted by sanctions. The war is just one thing that will be on the plate of President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping when they meet this week in Beijing. Jeff Murdoch and Andrew Salmon report Trump and Xi will spend 2 days hammering out details of a new trade pact, extending a critical minerals deal, and discussing artificial intelligence risks, nuclear weapons, and a potential $14 billion U.S. weapons package for Taiwan. Looming over all of those discussions is the Iran war, which caused the summit to be postponed already once. Trump appears eager to end the fighting as U.S. voters' dismay with soaring oil and gasoline prices has tanked his approval ratings. China, meanwhile, relies on Iran for low-cost oil and counts Middle Eastern nations among its largest trading partners. Maritime insurers dictate whether and at what premiums commercial vessels move through conflict zones, and China's trade-reliant economy needs a constant flow of container ships, energy carriers, and bulk carriers. Any disruption in the region affects the Chinese economy, which is already facing challenges. Virginia Democrats have made a last-ditch attempt to revive the state's Democratic-friendly congressional map at the Supreme Court. Stephen Dinan reports Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones seeks to set aside the state Supreme Court ruling last week that struck down Democrats' map, finding that the legislature broke procedural rules in rushing it to voters. Jones said the state court misinterpreted the meaning of Election Day in its ruling and said the federal justices must correct that. His filing asked the Supreme Court to keep Democrats' map in place and to give the High Court a chance to decide whether to take up the case. Chief Justice John Roberts gave Jones's opponents until Thursday to file a response to the petition. And finally, a growing number of users of GLP-1 drugs for weight loss are experiencing bad breath as an unexpected side effect. Sean Salai reports experts describe the odor as a mix of dry mouth, rotten egg burps, and a funky smell that arises as the appetite-suppressing drugs slow digestion, which leaves food to ferment in the stomach. The trend is already appearing in retail sales. Hershey CEO Kirk Tanner said during a recent earnings call that sales of icebreakers, mints, and gums jumped 8% in the first quarter because of functional snacking tailwinds, including GLP-1 adoption. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.